one. What's going on, guys? It's the Bigs Podcast, episode number 182, and this is Ghost Runner number 2. Jay Ferraro is back with us following up week 3. Jay, how you doing this week, my friend?
I thought we were going to open the program, Joe, and I called it a program. I know I sound like an old man every time I do something like that, but I thought we were going to open the pod with hearing about some breaking news that the Shark, Cody, had traded for Aaron Judge, but it hasn't happened yet.
No, it hasn't happened yet. Cody's not getting the prime time player this week, but we certainly saw the big deal that went down last week. No big trades this week, Jay. Just a good week of fantasy baseball.
How did Ari's bench do? You know, I want to talk about that today. And I want to pick your brain about the history of Ari's bench. Has he always rocked a deep bench?
Well, the one thing that we have seen over the last few years is that deep bench from Ari, and it does rear its head again this year. Currently on his bench is Jonathan Aranda, first and second eligible, Michael Garcia, second and third eligible, Ryan Mountcastle, first base eligible, Taylor Ward, left field, and Michael Bush, first base eligible. So he's got 3 first base eligible guys on his bench behind Rhys Hoskins, who's in the lineup today.
The interesting thing about that, when we broke down that bench, I thought I was going to hear a name or two that should be on the wire. Arguably, these should all be guys that are rosterable and on benches and even filling in from time to time. So those guys there, Joe, I thought I was going to hear like Gio Urshela, because a lot of times there's guys there, they go, oh, that dude should be on the wire. It's deep. Is he utilizing it, though? Are these guys going in and out of the lineup constantly?
Not really. Rhys Hoskins is finally getting his start here because of the light Monday. I know he's been playing Ryan Mountcastle at first base almost exclusively, so Jonathan Aranda has been on the bench a lot. The outfield today is TJ Friedl, Julio, and Anthony Santander. So Taylor Ward gets his starts over TJ Friedl most days, I would assume. Michael Bush is the one guy who's just not playing fantasy baseball this year.
Not doing it.
He's just not doing it. He's not getting into Ari's lineup at all.
Got a lot of bombs, Joe.
Mm-hmm. He's hitting pretty well for the Chicago Cubs. I know he had a 2-homer game recently that was on Ari's bench. So,
no, I would never do it.
It was 2 homers in back-to-back days.
Has he ever made the playoffs with a deep bench like this?
Yeah, he made it back in 2023. Or even years. 2022 he made it. He made it in 2022 with the deep bench.
Okay.
Got knocked out in the first round. That was by 2022. He got knocked out by Jimmy Dunlap.
All right.
Who went on to win the championship.
It's interesting, man. I mean,
mm-hmm.
I've been called a fantasy maverick at times for things that I've done. And I know Ari with the deep bench, I know at times he hasn't rocked a bullpen, and it's worked and it hasn't worked at times. But I wonder if, even though some of those guys we talked about could be useful pieces on his club, if they shouldn't be another reliever or another starter or two that's floating on in the wire. We know we're not going to see that happen, but if I was Ari, I would certainly shed that bench 1 or 2 guys.
I mean, Ari is the one guy that has made this big shift in his strategy over the last few years, because when we look back in history, he holds the 7-day record for most saves in a week. I mean, Ari used to play with quite an extensive bullpen. He had 13 saves in week 1 of 2016, which was a 7-day week. He used to play with a normal bench and a deep bullpen. I don't know what changed.
Well, his brother's obsession with closers may have something to do with it, because you know what? If you're not in on them when Benny's in on them on draft day, you're not getting the closer ace, if you will. If there is even a closer ace anymore in the landscape of baseball. But I mean, we saw Slayton get a save today. It's Patriots Day, Charlie Brown. And that was basically outlined from the beginning. I just thought to myself, oh, Slayton's getting the save today over Chapman. I mean, if you have the lion's share of those two guys, you're happy about it. But Joe, for me, Slayton's the guy that's going to have the most saves there come season's end.
Yeah, you think so? Roldis Chapman is on Ari's team this year. He's one of the few relievers he is carrying. Justin Slayton is on Mike Sherman's team, so these two are separated quite nicely. And then there's always Liam Hendricks, who could come back from the IL at some point and factor into the back end of that bullpen.
Yeah, I wonder. Is he on somebody's roster right now?
Hendricks?
Yeah, Hendricks, because for me, I don't see that guy being a factor, and maybe that's unfair because of all the time he's missed and playing in that division and all those things. But you're right. I mean, who's to say he doesn't get a handful of saves and come season's end, Hendricks doesn't have 10 saves?
Yeah, he's on Jason Ashby's team right now, so he's certainly a factor. But he just came back off the IL, made his first appearance yesterday, and gave up a bomb. So maybe not right away, but he could factor in later on this season.
Yeah, certainly a piece. Certainly a piece. I mean, what's going on with bullpens right now is absolutely insane. And then we had Puck and Trinan go down. Those are two huge injuries. I know Trinan was on your squad. How have you addressed that injury so far?
I dropped him. I had
Wow.
to. I had to. I have McClanahan and Acuna right now clogging up IL spots. I'm not going to put a reliever on my bench just to sit there and wait for him to come back with a forearm strain. Doesn't sound very good. I don't like it. So he's off the squad. And I've talked about it on the weekly review shows that I'm just sort of stuck in this holding pattern until something does occur. This is that thing that occurs, and now I've got a rotational roster spot that I can rotate a reliever in and out every day now.
There's no rush to get Trinan back on that roster aside from October for Dave Roberts and the LA squad. If I had the open IL spot, I would definitely try to get that guy because once he does come back, you want a piece of that Dodgers pen. And I know you don't even like that I said that. As you blew out smoke, I could just see the disdain in your voice for suggesting it. But it's
he already
true.
got picked up.
Who scooped him up?
Cody.
Do-do, do-do-do. Nice.
Yeah. Cody scooped him up.
You knew that.
He dropped Grayson Rodriguez, who might not pitch this year. So there's the IL spot.
Yeah, no, you knew that guy was going to get snagged. But the forearm issue, that's a big time issue. And Cody has him now, but the second a guy or two gets injured, that's the disposable guy once again. But he wasn't K'ing a lot of guys out of the gate this year. So I'm wondering if the workload from a year ago and all the success he had in the postseason, he came into camp a little banged up. The Ks weren't there. It's not like Vessia's K total. It's not like Yates's K total, but that's what you got to love about the bigs, man. You drop Blake Trinan, you drop a guy who's hurt, a reliever, not even the closer. I know he has two saves this year, and immediately that guy gets picked up. That's why the bigs is the fucking best.
Yep. It is. It is, no doubt. We talked about Christopher Morel last time. He actually just got dropped today for Jake Fraley, so off of Jason's team. That guy's floating around in free agency again. You had asked to talk about free agency. Let's talk about it. There's a bunch of dudes out there for the scooping right now. Most interestingly, a guy by the name of Cameron Misner is the top free agent right now. He's an outfielder for the Tampa Bay Rays. Got 3 homers, 10 RBIs, hitting 360 with an OBP over 400. So he's out there. You can go get him. He's center field eligible.
If you need a boost, if you need something like this, would be the type of guy I would recommend for Ben. And I know he doesn't play the game this way, but I would acquire him. And I'm not sure who's actually in center field for Benny. So let me not just say Ben's team, but any team, a guy like this, Joe, I don't know. Is he just going to be on a heater for 2 weeks and we don't see him again? Or is this guy going to put up good numbers all year long and you snagged him off the wire? So it's like that Cat Paris on the Angels. If you scooped him up during his heater, congratulations. You got a boatload of bombs, you got some steals, And then since that, he hasn't done a thing. So there's that balance of knowing when to move on from that guy who's on the heater, you scooped off the wire, and okay, this guy, and we've all done it, Joe, right? We've been paying attention. Okay, he did it again. He's had another good game. He's had another good game. And you think about it for too long, and then he ends up on someone else's team.
No doubt. You wait too long. This is exactly the situation with Spencer Torkelson. I saw him hit a bomb. I saw him hit another one, and I went, "No, this seems to be a heater here. Let's add him to the roster." And he hasn't come off the team since. He hasn't come out of the lineup since. He's been absolutely tearing the cover off the ball. On the
I
pitch,
think he's your utility guy for the foreseeable future. That's 35, 40 bombs. I know you got Freddie at first. I
mm-hmm.
get that. Freddie at some point again is going to miss some time during the year. We just know it. We know how this Dodgers team is going to orchestrate this thing. They're playing for 1 month out of the year, and that's what this is all about. I wouldn't move Torque out of utility spot. I wouldn't move him off your club. That type of pickup is a championship type pickup, no doubt about it.
Would you liken it to the 2006 pickup of Justin Morneau that Ben got off of waivers?
From me,
From
we were
you?
from me. No, we were together in my dorm, and you so obviously you know what we were doing, and I dropped Justin Morneau after I had watched him play with the New Britain Rockcats that entire season when he was in Double A of the Eastern League. I saw so many of his games just hitting bombs, being so much better than everyone else on the field, and I dropped him. And as I was dropping him, I said to Ben, "He's a poor man's Craig Monroe." And Ben went on to win the championship.
Poor man's Craig Monroe. Man, Craig Monroe wishes he had a season like the '06 season for Monroe. Man, that was a
Right.
bad quote.
Oh, no doubt about it. But it is very, I mean, we have to see what goes on because, Torkelson would have to go on to win the American League MVP. I don't
Yeah.
think that's going to happen, but you certainly could win the bigs this year. So that, and back to that outfield you mentioned for Tampa Bay, it's one of
Mm-hmm.
those guys like, with some injuries there, going to get the at bats. You have to see. But when someone has a little bit of a track record because of the depth in the bigs, you got to try. You have to at least try for somebody like that if you don't like what's going on. If you don't like what's going on in your outfield, and I'm sure there's some other guys that we could point to in free agency, but not trying at times could be a detriment.
Yeah, I don't know that Misner's getting full-time playing time. Looks like he is, according to roster resource. He's the left-handed platoon of the left field job. So looks like full-time, or at least strong side platoon with somebody like Christopher Morel. So that might have played into why Christopher Morel has been dropped in the bigs. You wanted to talk about the Baltimore Orioles, interestingly enough. So what do you think about their playoff chances this year?
Well, I thought before the season started, I didn't think they were a playoff team, Joe. You don't replace Corbin Burns with anything, and you bring in Charlie Morton. Now, if the Baltimore Orioles had a rotation of Corbin Burns and a healthy Kyle Bradish, and at the back end, as a five starter, as a veteran guy, you want Charlie Morton in the mix, that's fine. But they did nothing to address that rotation in the offseason. And that's a big deal. They lose Santander, big clubhouse presence, and a big bat in that lineup because that's the veteran guy with Mullins to have all the youngsters take it easy. We got Santander, and he was a beast last year during his walk year.
Mm-hmm.
And they bring in Tyler O'Neill and they bring in Gary Sanchez. It's not going to do it, Joe. That's not going to do it in the American League East. And something I want to bring up, I want your thoughts on this.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the rules, the Baltimore Orioles have been allowed to move in and out the fence in left field, right? And I wonder how that is playing with the psyche of an Adley Rushman or any of their young talent. Now, Gunner's different. Gunner doesn't matter where you have that fence. But Adley, once again, Joe, look, I wasted, and I say it, even though I was in the finals and I lost on Sunday to Josh, I wasted a second round pick on Adley Rushman last year because I was a fool off of the numbers in 2023 and all those walks. All those walks really got to me. And I was ready to take Adley Rushman in the first round last year until Jose Ramirez fell. I think it was 13. We drafted right near each other. But a player like Adley Rushman, all of a sudden the fence in left field is out more. Now it's in more. I think it's playing with some of these players' psyches because this offense right now, especially Jordan Westberg, it's just not cutting it at all.
Yeah, no, Adley's hitting only 208 with 4 homers and 7 RBIs in the early going, not out to the start that one would assume. He did go off the board too, ironically. The man we've been talking about so much here in the early going is Ari. Ari ended up with him this year, so he's locked up that catcher position for the whole season. I think he took him in the 4th round. Let me check that. I'm just gonna, yeah, 6th round. 84th overall in the 6th round. So he falls from the 2nd to the 6th this year.
I like where I like where Ari picked him there, Joe, in the 6th round, because I was worried that this was a player off of what he did a few years ago would have gone in the 3rd or maybe the 4th. So to drop in the 6th, I understand why Ari did that. But guess what? Right now, Joe, he's not even warranting a 6th round grab. He's like every other catcher, and he's batting 300 on the road this year, which is decent. But this is a guy, Joe. If his numbers don't look right come year's end, this guy's going in the 10th, 12th, 13th. I mean, there's no reason to be putting draft day capital up against this guy from what he did a few years ago.
No doubt. No doubt. Big news just came down in the baseball world. Luis Arraez is going on the IL after his collision with Mauricio Dubon yesterday. He's going into the concussion protocol and is going on the 7-day IL. So big blow for Ben Nisman here, not going to have him in his week 4 matchup.
No, that's a huge, huge loss for Benny in week 4. And, that's a Ben Nisman guy. He's a perfect player in the bigs. That's why Ben has targeted him the past couple of years. But, thankfully, it's just concussion protocol, Joe, and it's not something more than that. And, you know, back to the Orioles, though, when it comes
Yes.
to those offensive pieces, the guy that I would still try to go out and grab, look, you're not getting Gunner and you can't move Adley either way. But if you are a guy out there that needs some infield help, Jordan Westberg is much, much better than this, Joe. And if you can get him off of whoever has him now, and I guess we're talking about it, so it might be tougher, but Jordan Westberg to me, and is he still dual eligible in the bigs?
2nd and 3rd eligible, yes, sir, off of Bobby Russo's team. So it might
Oh
be
no,
difficult
Bobby
to get.
Russo knows. No, Bobby Russo. Bobby knows. Good job, Bobby. All right, Bobby. Shit. And Bobby, much love. Sorry I picked Frank over you. We'll see. Doesn't mean I'm right. Doesn't mean I'm right.
So interestingly enough, Ari and Bobby were picking relatively close to each other. Adley and Jordan Westberg, same round in the 6th round.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. I mean, I think Jordan Westberg's the real deal. And when you consider he's dual eligible, I absolutely love it. He'll start to hit. He'll start to hit and the numbers will look better. But I'm telling you, that left field, the Orioles got to stop messing around with that left field and just let the park be the park. Because, sports psychology is something that is very real and it's not talked about a lot in fantasy because, you're just looking at these weird rankings and, the rankings are nonsense. Last year, you and I, we sat up in my apartment just mocking all those Nolan Jones rankings that were just blowing our minds. And now, funnily enough, Nolan Jones is back on the Tribe, still not doing anything off of that crazy campaign he had a few years ago with the Rockies. But sports psychology could be something, and you're just thinking about that left field porch in and out. I mean, we'll see. But what also with the Orioles, Joe, that bullpen, you know,
Yeah.
Felix Batista, he's gotten his 2 saves, just got one on Saturday, Joe. And I still like that player a lot for a good amount of saves this year. I just don't know how many wins that team's going to have.
They're going to the starting pitching certainly makes that bullpen look very good, but you don't know what you're getting out of those starters every 5th day. And now they've got an opening with the injury to Kyle Bradish and Zach Eflin and Grayson Rodriguez and Trevor Rogers. So they've only got 4 healthy starters. It'll be interesting to see what they do going forward. It's Morton, Kramer, Sugano, and Povich right now. It sounds like a terrible law firm.
Felix Batista is a closer that has a lot of value in the bigs because of his track
Mm-hmm.
record. And of course, a relief appearance makes it too. But with concerns with how many games he's actually going to get in and save for them, he has a lot of value. I would consider flipping that guy for a piece that you might need on your roster.
Mike Haber, pay attention here. This guy's talking about flipping Bautista.
No, Mike Haber doesn't care what I have to say. Mike Haber doesn't care what I have to say. But, you know, we had broken down the clubs that we think, well, I think are going to be playoff contenders in
Mm-hmm.
2025, Joe. And a friend of the program, one of the founding fathers of the big, Stephen Okawa, asked me after listening to the pod, what makes the Habers so good in the bigs? And, you know, look, we always keep joking that it's a Haber world, Joe, but when, they had the brother championship a few years ago, then Josh wins last year versus me, that's a run that has to be really celebrated. And so my answer,
Mm-hmm.
my answer to him was, first of all, I think both Habers draft incredibly well, and I think that's a fact that we could both agree on.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
And the other thing is, I
Josh ended
believe,
up with Juan Soto this year at 5. It was just insane.
right. And you've been watching it much more closely than I have because I dip in and out of the
Mm-hmm.
league playing. But so the drafts every single year, they're consistently good, right? You never walk away from a draft and going, oh, Mike's going to have to, tinker here and maybe needs to upgrade this. It looks like, I mean, things get added and subtracted along the way. But on paper, after draft day, both teams are always strong.
No doubt. No doubt. This was, and lucky for them this year, they were both picking in the top 5. So they end up with one of the elite superstars of the game, Juan Soto for Josh, Bobby Witt for Mike Haber. So when you start off your team with those pieces, you're gonna be ahead of the game, no doubt.
I can't believe the Haber brothers have Juan Soto and the cheat code that is Bobby Witt. That's Game
Mm-hmm.
Genie. That's having fucking Game Genie, and you've already been dominating. So that was the first thing I said to Steven. And then another thing I said was, I believe, Joe, that they practice appropriate patience. So they let their players that they drafted, they believe in ride. And then they're also watching the wire in a really good way where they bring in good guys. I believe you had told me that Mike ended up scooping Ben Rice off the wire. And it's different
Mm-hmm.
things like that. Last year, when I wasn't patient enough with Hap after that trade I made with Frank, he ends up on Josh's team. So I think they practice um, responsible patience when it comes to their roster and how they manipulate the wire.
Yeah, and you were right. Mike still does have Ben Rice, so he's not going to be in the lineup tonight. He's day to day with an elbow injury, but he is tearing the cover off the ball. Has an on base percentage north of 400, 5 homers, 9 RBIs, and a bunch of walks here in the early going. It's a great pickup. It's an unbelievable pickup for Mike Haber.
Just unbelievable. And again, that's the wire. That's Torkelson on the wire. And that's who knows who the next guy is. Campbell, that's another perfect example. Another
Mm-hmm.
guy on your squad that you scooped up. Has he continued to put up really nice numbers for you after that heater he went on to start the year?
Yeah, he had 2 hits today and 2 RBIs and a walk. He's hitting over 300. He's got 3 homers and 6 RBIs, scoring a bunch of runs, and on base percentage north of 400. I can't take this guy out of the lineup either.
I mean, that's just how you do it. That's just how you do it. And that's why I wanted to talk about a name or two on the wire because those guys are difference makers. I mean, look, we recycle the same relievers chasing wraps, and we're going to stream JP Sears 100 different times this year,
Mm-hmm.
but there's just some guys that aren't in that category once they're floating on the wire for a little bit. And when it comes to Campbell, Torkelson, and Ben Rice, those are 3 names that I think stick around all year on all your clubs.
Tyler O'Neill just hit the waivers. Interesting name to come free this year. He's hitting 246 with a 323 on base, but it's all about the power. And you mentioned that left field in Camden Yards, they moved it in, so hopefully it helps him. But I don't like this particular player in that environment for a full season. So I do understand cutting ties.
Who cut ties and how many bombs does he have? And is he still triple outfield eligible?
Double eligible left and right in the corners, 2 homers on the season. And it looks like Jimmy Dunlap in the 13th round drafted him and just cut him loose.
No, Jimmy did the right thing. Jimmy, I wouldn't have drafted him at all. The 13th round for this guy, no way. But Jimmy doing it now. See, and that's why he's an excellent manager, though, because you know what? You took this guy in the 13th round, but you immediately see, okay, it's not working. Go try to do something else. And was it something to solidify the team, or do you think it was something just for this week? Who did he end up picking up for him?
Let's take a look. That happened yesterday, so it was a Sunday move. You know how
Okay,
important those are.
those are very important.
Mhm. And he did take quite a beating from Jason this week. We're going to cover it in depth here on the show this evening. But as far as what he did to pick up for Tyler O'Neill, I'm waiting for the page to load because, of course, I am.
No, but you got to move on
Come
from that
on,
guy.
page.
Not a winning bigs player. Um, Tyler O'Neill, and a guy that, if you want to pick him up on a light Monday or light Thursday, try to stream a bomb. That's the best you're going to get from that guy.
Looks like he picked up Mickey Moniak in the doubleheader of the Colorado series. He went 1 for 9 with a triple on Sunday.
1 for 9 with a triple. Wow, that's so
Mm-hmm.
interesting. I mean, I'm not worried about the matchup. I'll listen to it on the pod, but you know what? You stream a triple on a Sunday, that's usually the sexiest stream of all. That's almost the best thing you could stream on a Sunday.
Mm-hmm. And a 1 for 9, you're probably pissed because if
Yeah,
that's a single, you're just like, what the fuck was the point? But the triple on Sunday is a huge play.
yeah, good for him. No,
Yeah.
I like that move a lot. I definitely like that move. So, yeah, Sunday moves. I mean, have you the Sunday move? That's
Mm-hmm.
something that's become more in vogue as years have gone on in the bigs, just like staying up or setting your alarm, making some move at 3 o'clock in the morning. But the Sunday move, do you think all 16 teams, and not to point anyone out in particular, but do you feel as though everybody plays with that strategy, paying attention for the Sunday move?
Dude, we had a full slate of games yesterday, and there were so many fringy starting pitchers going yesterday that I think 10 of them were picked up yesterday during the day.
Mm-hmm.
It was nuts. I just kept seeing another one, another one goes. I'm pulling it up right now. As okay, so starting at 3 o'clock in the morning, because of course we did start at 3 o'clock in the morning. I picked up Logan Henderson for his start against the Athletics in Milwaukee. It was good. I picked up Jamison Tyone for his start against Arizona, which was rain soaked but solid. Jake Irvin in a doubleheader in Colorado got picked up. Charlie Morton for that terrible start against Cincinnati got picked up. Ryan Pepio for his start against the Yankees got picked up. Let's see. Brad Lord for the second half of that doubleheader got picked up. And then a whole bunch of relievers late for the late game.
Charlie Morton got picked up.
Yeah. Charlie Morton got scooped
Wow.
up for that start against Cincinnati, and it was very bad. Very bad.
It was very bad. And look, the Nationals did some really good work against that Colorado pitching staff.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically Dylan Cruz, like really got going. I think Dylan Cruz is going to have a big week playing against the Orioles pitching staff. He's got a boatload of steals now. I think it's up to 6, Joe. And
Mm-hmm.
look, the batting average is still under 200 right now. But this is a guy, Dylan Cruz. That offense, it's a real fun offense to watch with, Wood on top. And Dylan Cruz this week. If you got some Dylan Cruz, you saw what he did over the weekend. I feel like he's going to have a nice series. And now the Orioles are going to be one of those clubs, I think, this year that if you want to stream some hitting, do it against the Orioles. Do it against the Orioles. Do it against the Rockies. These are clubs you got to do it against because streaming hitting, as we know, is just as important as streaming starting pitching.
No doubt. Dylan Cruz on Mike Sherman's team. That's who I'm facing this week. So hopefully it's not a big week for him. I would appreciate it being, like next week or the week after, whenever he's not facing me. However, Sherman is in a little bit of a hole this week against me. He's got a couple of injured dudes in the rotation. Brenton Doyle is involved in something going on here. Is he having a kid? Is that what's up
No,
with
no.
this one?
So unfortunately, Joe, I read about it today. He had missed a bunch of games because of a hamstring injury, and then they ended up putting him on the bereavement list. Him and his wife, they lost their child. So,
Oh, that's terrible.
yeah, it's absolutely terrible. And so, you know, that's just absolutely terrible news. So who knows when Doyle does come back, for Sherman's club. And with the hamstring injury, I'm guessing it was a bereavement. I believe is 7 days, same thing as the concussion protocol. I believe that's how it works out. But obviously, that's going to be really touch and go for the foreseeable future.
Okay, so condolences to Brenton Doyle and his family in this time. It's parents should never bury their kids, and that's a terrible situation to have lost in that situation. Let's talk about the games that are going to happen today, Jay. We've got Spencer Schwellenbach on the mound for the Atlanta Braves against the St. Louis Cardinals. Schwellenbach has been just absolutely amazing over the first couple of starts here. 2.25 ERA over 25 innings.
He's been fantastic, and he's going to be fantastic tonight because the Cardinals are a team. We saw what Clay Holmes did over the weekend. You start all your pitchers against the Cardinals all day, and they just don't have enough firepower. And that's Spencer is going to tear up that lineup tonight.
Max Meyer going in Miami against the red hot Cincinnati Reds, who throw Nick Lodolo on the mound. How do you see that one?
That's going to be a fun one. That's one I want to watch. Max, what's interesting is the games where he strikes out a lot of guys. Well, here's what I'll say. That start against the Mets, you were watching, and he's throwing a no-no. He's not striking guys out in that one.
Mm-hmm.
But the other starts, he gives up his hits, but the whip is nice, but he strikes out a lot of guys. It'll be interesting. I know. Are you going to start him tonight?
No, because I got the good start from Bueller today in Boston. I'm not going to be greedy on a Monday and run this kid out there after Cincinnati just scored 24 on Baltimore yesterday.
No, and I happen to agree with that because you know what? Is he going to get you a win tonight? Probably not because it's the Marlins, and is it going to be a boatload of Ks? Yeah, but also isn't Max due for a stinker?
Yeah, at some point, I think so. And this could definitely be it. This lineup, like I said, just put up 24 runs yesterday on Baltimore. I'm not feeling like the rebound game is going to be, 1 earned over 6. I don't think that's happening.
No, and Ellie is just what a
We're just
fun
waiting for
player to
that.
watch.
We're waiting for that dude to go on a heater. That is a fun player to watch. Clark Schmidt returns tonight for your New York Yankees against Gavin Williams on the other side in Cleveland. Do you like Clark Schmidt to get a W here?
I think so. I like his chances, as long as he keeps the ball in the ballpark against the Guardians, I think he'll do all right. Gavin Williams, we haven't seen what this guy wants to be. He's really just a streaming darling right now. Clark Schmidt, on the other hand, I know he's on Ben's team. That's not a guy that's a streaming option. That's a real-time deal. A real-time deal. Real-time deal. Say that 10 times fast. But I don't know. I think Clark Schmidt, that's a nice start for him. If I was, a Gavin Williams owner, I certainly would not start him against this Yankee squad at home. But Gavin Williams, I streamed him a few weeks back. I think it was against either Tampa or maybe it was against the White Sox. But those are the type of starts right now that I'd feel comfortable with Gavin Williams because that whip isn't where it needs to be.
Right. Finally, the New York Mets at home tonight taking on the Philadelphia Phillies. Aaron Nola on the mound for the Phils has had a bad start to the season so far. Going up against Tyler McGill, who has had a lights out start to the season. How do you see this one breaking down?
Well, until the foreseeable future, I don't start any starters in City Field. You know that. Even Christopher Sanchez tomorrow night, even off the 12 Ks, I'm not doing it. Can't do it. Don't want to do it. But McGill, that's because of the start that he's had to the year and because of what that offense could be at home in your City Field, I would start him against Philly, but it could be dangerous. But it's one that I'm willing to do because that looks like a W for the Mets tomorrow. Or yeah,
All right,
tonight.
W for the Mets tonight and a W for the Mets tomorrow against Christopher Sanchez. Let's go. Let's go. Need my
I mean,
Mets to
it's
do
true though.
well.
Look, I mean, any way you slice it right now, you don't start a starter in City Field if you don't have to. If you're chasing something on a weekend, it's early enough in the week, especially Nola and how his start to the season. Who ended up getting Nola, Joe, in the draft, and which round did he go in? Because when you draft Nola, you go, okay, this guy is going to anchor my rotation and going to get a lot of wins, has an awesome offense, an awesome bullpen. Those are the type of guys you want in your rotation, but it's been bad in April. It's going to get better. This is an all-world talent, but it's got to be
No doubt.
extremely frustrating.
Yeah, Nola went to Chris Levy in the draft. I'm looking up where he got him right now. Seventh round, 99 overall as his SP3 behind Cole Reagans and Pablo Lopez.
Wow, so he built a stable. He built an
Mm-hmm.
absolute stable, and unfortunately, Lopez is hurt. And Lopez was your guy for a good many years. You were in on him
Yeah,
before the breakout. You never paid
yeah.
up to get him on draft day. Smart. You always tried to acquire him. Are you still big time in the Pablo camp?
He had a rough year last year with an ERA north of 4. I think he's great for volume. I think he's great for strikeout totals, but I'm not as high up on him as I was in years past, and his price has just continually gone up in years since I've stepped away from him. Um, no, I'm not paying 94 overall in the 6th round to go get Pablo Lopez when I was getting him in the 12th to 15th round for years. It's the same reason I didn't get Seth Lugo this year. I was getting him stupid late in the last few years. And he went on to have a second place in the Cy Young season last year, so I'm not paying up to get that. Not a chance.
And for the most part, not paying up is a strategy that you and I both execute on draft day. Hunter Green, if you're in on it for his breakout campaign, and I realize the last start against Baltimore wasn't what a lot of owners wanted, but this is obviously his breakout campaign, right? And you got him where you got him. We've all been waiting for it. We've all been drafting this guy and putting him on our clubs since the second he took the bump, just because of what we thought this would eventually be. But guess
Mm-hmm.
what, Joe? If you got him this year, you did it with Yandy Diaz a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations. You jackpotted. Now, next year, when he flies up the rankings even more, it's none of your business.
Nope. It's not a guy that I'm interested in this year because again, he came off of the batting title and 23 home runs, and I'm like, you gave me everything and more. You gave me 120% of what I expected. There's no way I'm going to be in on this guy again this year. Hunter Green, interestingly enough, 141st off the board, 9th round Ari Nisman as his SP4. SP4. Cease, Yamamoto, Tanner Bybee, and then Hunter Green.
Okay, Ari, I see you. I see that stable. Wow. All right. So Ari's like, you know what? I got all these pitchers. I got all these hitters. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, I'm going to compete this year. It was a really nice. I loved the draft for Ari. Julio Rodriguez at 13, Gunnar Henderson in the 2nd round, then Ceason Yamamoto, Santander, Rutschman, Bybee, Carlos Estevez, Hunter Green, and Aroldis Chapman. Those were his first 10 picks.
I'm very impressed with his first 10 picks. I mean, Chapman, to me, I would never But I mean, if that guy's getting you saves, that's guy getting you saves, so it doesn't matter. But the
Right.
first 10, you got to get your closer when you get your closer. Very, very impressive from Ari there. And he was on a cruise ship.
He was on a cruise ship. Yeah.
Oh, so he had a few drinks. He was like, all right, you watch the kids. I got to do this right now.
Yeah, I need 3 hours alone just to sit and be a nerd for for a while.
In a Hawaiian shirt. In a
Yeah,
Hawaiian shirt.
sitting sipping a mai tai, just enjoying the overlook of the Atlantic Ocean.
No, I always look at things, in a different way at sometimes it's not just about the numbers and what Ari's doing here. I really appreciate those top 10 picks there and go get him with all those guys on that bench, baby. Go get him. And Julio, man, I'll tell you what, Joe, I'll tell you what, Julio has all the talent in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
They got to put somebody with him, Joe. They got to put someone there with him. It can't just be Julio versus the world.
Yeah, Randy Arozarena is supposed to be that guy, and I don't think he's that guy. Cal Raleigh is supposed to be that guy, and he hits 220. So, not. They need to find somebody. They need to go out and spend. And you know what? Kyle Tucker's coming available in free agency. Why not go make a huge splash and sign that guy?
That would be incredible. And Julio, as we know, when he goes on heaters, I know he was on Costas's team last year after the draft. Then he ends up on the Sharks team, of course. And Julio has heaters, and those heaters are all world. Once he
Mm-hmm.
goes on his heater, you want all in on it. And then it's almost non existent any other time, Joe. Joe, if his numbers, I mean, he was still 2020 last year. So let's
Yeah.
not forget that. That's what's wrong with this. When this kid, the second he signed with the Mariners as a teenager, he was being compared to Ken Griffey Jr. Day one.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot to live up to. Then they give him a boatload of cash really young. That's something else to live up to. That's where all this sports psychology comes into play. He needs somebody, but you're being compared to Ken Griffey Jr. before you even step foot on the single A diamond. I mean, that's pretty big shoes to fill and unfair in a lot of ways. But so my question is, in all that, 2020, let's say the numbers reflect very similar to what he did in 2024. Hey, Ken Griffey Jr., I think he falls out of the first round.
I think so too. If this is another simply 20 home run, 24 stolen base season like he had last year with middling counting stats, because he had 76 runs scored and 68 RBIs in 143 games. That's just not going to cut it as a first rounder.
No. And he falls into the second round. I would certainly have to think about doing it. You might as well. And then that's the year he goes bonkers. Then he'll go back into the first round. But this thing fluctuates. Especially now that Paul Skeens was a first rounder this year. I
Mm-hmm.
love when it happened going 16th overall. If anybody was going to do it in the first round, that's exactly where you do it. That's
Yeah.
exactly where you do it. I think Paul Skeens, Joe, in his starts this year, you think at times he's not going at as hard as he could with some of these lineups because some of the K totals haven't been where I was expecting it this year. And now him bringing on a new pitch, I wonder if he's trying to save some of those bullets.
Yeah, it looks like 6 and 7 innings all of his starts, but the home run or the strikeout totals haven't been where you would expect. 6, 7, 6, and 4 in his most recent start against Cleveland. ERA numbers are great, and it's 30 strikeouts to, I don't know what the total number of innings is right now. 30 strikeouts to, call it 35 innings at
Okay.
this point.
Mm-hmm.
31 and a third, 31 and a third, 30 strikeouts. I think you would expect more. I think you would expect this dude to put up, ace-like numbers. And he's been a little bit disappointing. Is he holding back at this point? I don't know what you're holding back for. Pittsburgh's not going to compete.
Right. They're not going to compete. Only thing about Pittsburgh, and it doesn't pertain to fantasy, I love watching this team. Adam Frazier, Tommy Pham, O'Neill Cruz, who's
Mm-hmm.
really coming into his own this year, Joe, coming off a shortstop and now being center field. I mean, if you have him this year, congratulations on the dual eligibility. That won't
Mm-hmm.
be moving forward. But O'Neill Cruz, I wonder where did he go? Because projections now, he went in the fourth round. And who did he go to?
Bobby Russo.
Bobby Russo in the fourth. Solid pick in the fourth round. You know, paying a little bit of what we're expecting to see from this guy. But if the numbers look anywhere, you know, like 10 more in each category, we're talking about a potential second rounder next year.
Yeah, this is supposed to be the breakout season, and he's already got 5 homers. Anything more than 21 would be a career high. So I think 25 to 30 is certainly doable this year.
Definitely. And dual eligible and just very, very sexy. Would you pay second round value for him next year if the numbers are improved vastly?
Nope, this was the year to get in on him, and I just couldn't pull the trigger on this high strikeout, low walk, variable outcome type player. I couldn't do it. So plus I got Mookie in the first round, so shortstop was already taken care of.
Right. The tummy ache for around the world.
Yes, yes, the tummy ache that cost me 9 spots of value at some point.
Dustin May is facing the Cubbies in Chicago this week. Dustin
Yes.
May has been brilliant. All his starts have been at home. He hasn't pitched on the road yet. Going into Chicago, and that offense has just been absolutely incredible. I'd sit him in that start. I'd sit him.
Okay. He went in the 17th round to Mike Sherman, so he's certainly a piece of that rotation. Interesting to see. I'll be watching that start and making sure that Dustin May gets blown up. I would be a happy guy if that were to happen.
It's likely it could happen. I mean, look, that offense, what Kyle Tucker has meant to that club, you really can't even put a value on it. It just has made everybody so much better. Now, their bullpen's a mess, obviously. Their bullpen's a mess. And if you had Porter Hodge the other day, I feel for you, but you can't say enough about that offense, and that's okay because that's all you need. If you have a piece of that offense, that's more important than, anything else, unless if you have Imanaga.
Yeah, that's the big piece that you need to have in that rotation, no doubt.
And that's a good example. Where did I get him last year? Maybe in I don't know. He was the first pitcher I took off the board, and it was definitely in the teens somewhere. And, I hit pay dirt with it, right? But I would have never paid up for him this year. No way. I couldn't do it. I just can't do it. It's not, even though he's pitching extremely well, and I know he's on Jason's team, and I like that a lot, I wouldn't have paid up for him. So that's funny. That turned into the theme of the episode, not paying up for talent.
Yeah, not paying up for the guy on the breakout season. I did it with Sandy Alcantara after the Cy Young year, and that was dumb.
Sandy. Oh, Sandy, do 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 do. That's a song. I think
It's
that's
a
from
song.
Greece.
Sounds right.
Yeah,
Right.
you would know. You would know in all your Hello Dolly production crew stuff that you did in high school.
In high school, yes, sir.
I'm coming through to Aberdeen tomorrow. Am I going to see you?
Absolutely. I'll be here. Backyard baseball?
Absolutely.
Let's do it, guys. Thank you so much for watching, Jay. Thanks for being here with me, man.
Always love it, brother.
Well, we will be back this evening with the week 3 review. Be sure to check that out. Until next time, guys, it's been real, it's been fun, and it is always real fun in the bigs. We'll see you next time.